The massive Imperial transport ship descended through Lunar Station's atmospheric dome, like a falling star made of living crystal. Its hull shifted colors from deep purple to brilliant gold, each facet catching the artificial sunlight and throwing rainbows across the docking bay floor. Workers scattered as the alien vessel touched down with barely a whisper, its anti-gravity engines humming a song that made human teeth ache. Commander Lee Min-ho adjusted his uniform one final time and checked his sidearm. 20 years of military service had prepared him for many things, but negotiating with crystalline aliens who treated entire worlds like trading cards wasn't one of them. Lieutenant Park Ga stood to his left, her hand resting casually on her plasma rifle, while Major Kim Tae-sung flanked his right side, his cybernetic eye glowing softly as it recorded everything. "Remember," Min-ho said quietly, "they think we're primitives. Let them keep thinking that." The ship's hull began to dissolve, revealing an interior that seemed to exist in too many dimensions at once. Ambassador Vextar stepped out, and calling him humanoid would be generous. His body was a living sculpture of interlocking crystal planes that moved like liquid mercury. When he walked, his feet didn't quite touch the ground, and the air around him shimmered with barely contained energy. Behind him came two Imperial guards, their power armor crackling with defensive shields that could probably stop a nuclear blast. "Greetings, primitive inhabitants of Sol 3. Vextar's voice came from a floating translation device that looked like a golden beetle. The machine converted his crystalline chimes and resonances into perfect Korean, though it couldn't hide the condescension dripping from every word. "I am Ambassador Vextar, third claw of the Galactic Empire, speaker for 1,000 worlds, bearer of Imperial will." Min-ho stepped forward without bowing. "Commander Lee Min-ho, Earth Stellar Defense Force, you're trespassing in sovereign territory." The ambassador's form flickered with what might have been surprise. In the Empire's experience, primitive species usually cowered when faced with Imperial might. They certainly didn't make demands about sovereignty. "Your defense force?" Vexatar's translator seemed to struggle with the concept. "How quaint. I bring an offer of great generosity from His Imperial Majesty, ruler of the Spiral Arm, master of 1,000,000 stars." The crystal being gestured, and a holographic display materialized in the air between them, showing Earth in startling detail. "Your world has been selected for integration into the Empire. 60% of your population will be relocated to productive colonies, where they will contribute meaningfully to galactic civilization. The remaining 40% may remain to maintain basic planetary functions." Lieutenant Park Ga's grip tightened on her weapon. She'd read the intelligence reports about these productive colonies. Strip mining operations on airless worlds, agricultural stations where alien crops were more valuable than human lives, construction projects that killed workers faster than they could be replaced. "And if we refuse?" Min-ho asked, his voice steady. The ambassador's crystalline form brightened, casting dancing lights across the docking bay walls. "Refusal is not a concept the Empire recognizes. No world has ever been foolish enough to reject. Imperial generosity. Those few that attempted resistance were corrected. Their populations were relocated entirely, their worlds repurposed for more suitable inhabitants." Major Kim Tae-sung's cybernetic eye zoomed in on the Imperial guards. Their power armor was impressive, certainly, but he'd seen the technical specifications. Earth's weapons had been designed specifically to counter Imperial technology, based on decades of careful observation and captured equipment from the Empire's border skirmishes with other species. "I have a counter-proposal," Min-ho said, taking another step forward. The Imperial guards shifted nervously, their armor's threat assessment systems apparently confused by the human commander's complete lack of fear. "So you have 72 hours to remove all Imperial personnel from our system. After that, anyone flying Imperial colors in Sol space will be considered hostile." Ambassador Vextar's form shimmered through several colors before settling on a deep, angry red. You dare make demands of the Empire? Your species hasn't even achieved faster-than-light travel. Your weapons are chemical explosives and metal projectiles. You are insects presuming to negotiate with gods." "Insects with very sharp stings," Min-ho replied calmly. He activated his communicator, and his voice echoed throughout Lunar Station, and across every human facility in the solar system. All stations, all ships, all defense platforms. This is Commander Lee Min-ho. As of this moment, Earth declares the Galactic Empire persona non grata. Our borders are sealed. Initiate Protocol Fortress immediately. Across the solar system, hidden installations powered up. Asteroid mining facilities revealed their true nature as weapons platforms. Seemingly innocent research stations deployed, massive railguns. The outer planet's orbital facilities activated shield generators and missile batteries that had been disguised as atmospheric processors. The ambassador's translator buzzed frantically as it tried to process his outraged crystalline shrieks. "This is impossible. No single world defies the Empire. We have fleets that could glass your planet from orbit. We have weapons that could crack your moon in half." "Then you should have brought them," Min-ho said quietly. Through the station's viewports, they could see Imperial ships beginning to gather at the edge of the solar system. Massive dreadnoughts emerged from hyperspace, their hulls bristling with plasma cannons and particle beam arrays. The Empire was mobilizing for what they expected to be a quick demonstration of power. Ambassador Vexitar's form began to fade as he prepared to transport back to his ship. "You cannot comprehend the forces you oppose, human. The Empire has conquered species that had mastered technologies your kind cannot imagine. We have shattered civilizations that spanned multiple star systems. You are one small world, alone." In the darkness, Min-ho watched as the crystalline being dissolved into sparkling motes of light. The Imperial transport lifted off silently, its hull shifting colors one final time before it engaged its faster-than-light drive and vanished. "Well," Major Kim Tae-sung said, his cybernetic eye still recording, "that went better than expected." Lieutenant Park Ga checked her weapons charge level. "Think they'll actually give us 72 hours. Min-ho smiled grimly as he watched the Imperial fleet massing beyond Pluto's orbit. "They'll probe our defenses first. Test our resolve. Standard Imperial doctrine calls for psychological warfare before direct assault, and when they realize we're serious, then we show them why humanity doesn't make empty threats." Admiral Zefkor's flagship, Eternal Dominion, cut through the heliopause like a blade through silk, its massive hull stretching nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. The ship's crystalline armor plates shifted from deep blue to menacing purple as it entered Sol System, followed by 47 Imperial warships in perfect formation. Each vessel bristled with plasma cannons, particle beam arrays, and quantum torpedoes capable of cracking moons in half. The bridge of the Eternal Dominion hummed with activity as dozens of Imperial officers monitored their sensor arrays. Admiral D. Zefkor stood at the center of it all, his forearms moving gracefully as he reviewed tactical displays. His species, the Velthari, had conquered their first world when humans were still living in caves, and their military precision was legendary across the galaxy. "Admiral," his aide, Commander Crixtel, approached with a puzzled expression on his reptilian features, "our sensors detect no Earth vessels in the immediate vicinity. The inner system appears to be completely undefended." Zefkor's golden eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "Predictable. These humans heard our reputation and scattered like frightened insects, probably hiding behind their moon, hoping we'll lose interest and leave." The massive view screen at the front of the bridge displayed the solar system in tactical overlay. Mars appeared as a red dot, Jupiter as a swirling gas giant, and Earth as a small blue marble that seemed utterly defenseless. What the Imperial sensors couldn't detect were the thousands of modifications humanity had made to their system over the past 15 years. "Sir," the tactical officer called out, "we're detecting some unusual energy signatures from the asteroid belt. Possibly mining operations. Irrelevant," Zefkor waved dismissively with his lower right arm. "Primitive industrial activity. Focus on locating their military assets." Deep within the dwarf planet Ceres, Colonel Yoon Da-un sat in a command center that had been carved from solid rock and lined with the most advanced stealth materials Earth could produce. Banks of holographic displays surrounded her, showing the positions of every Imperial ship in real time. Her fingers danced across control surfaces, as she coordinated with defense platforms scattered throughout the solar system. Imperial fleet has crossed the heliopause, she reported into her headset. All stations report ready. Captain Jung, are your wolves in position? 300 million kilometers away, Captain Jung Hai-jin floated in the cramped cockpit of his stealth frigate, Silent Running. His ship was one of 12 vessels hiding in the shadow of Jupiter's largest moon, their hulls coated with experimental metamaterials that bent sensor waves around them like light around a black hole. "Wolves are ready to hunt, Colonel," Jung replied, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "We've got clean firing solutions on their rear guard." The Imperial fleet continued its stately advance, confident in their overwhelming firepower. Admiral Zefkor had destroyed entire civilizations with smaller forces. The humans had shown no evidence of advanced technology, no signs of space-based defenses, nothing that could threaten even a single Imperial destroyer. That's when asteroid, designation 2087 Alpha, decided to introduce itself. What had appeared on sensors as a slowly tumbling chunk of rock suddenly unfolded like a mechanical flower. Armor plates retracted to reveal a massive railgun barrel nearly a kilometer long. The weapon had been disguised as part of the asteroid's natural structure, its power core hidden deep within the rocky interior. "Firing solution locked," Lieutenant Song Yu-jin announced from her position aboard the disguised platform. Her console showed 37 Imperial ships within optimal range. Launching Package 1, the railgun spoke with silent thunder, accelerating a tungsten rod the size of a telephone pole to 12% of light speed. The projectile crossed the distance between the asteroid belt and the Imperial formation in less than 30 seconds, striking the cruiser Void Render amidships. The Imperial shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, had no defense against a solid metal rod moving at relativistic velocity. The tungsten penetrator punched through the ship's crystalline armor like tissue paper, its kinetic energy converted to heat and plasma as it vaporized everything in its path. The Void Render split in half, its reactor core detonating in a brilliant flash that lit up half the solar system. "Contact!" Admiral Zefkor roared, his forearms working frantically at his command console. "All ships combat formation. Locate the source of that attack." But the attack had come from everywhere at once. Across the asteroid belt, dozens of disguised weapons platforms revealed themselves. Chunks of rock that had drifted in stable orbits for millions of years suddenly bristled with railguns, missile launchers, and directed energy weapons. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a fortress. Captain Jung Hai-jin watched the Imperial fleet struggle to respond to the asteroid attack, their formation breaking apart as they tried to identify threats in all directions. "Now, we show them what Earthwolves can do," he muttered, engaging his engines. The stealth frigates emerged from Jupiter's shadow like ghosts made manifest. Their hulls remained nearly invisible to Imperial sensors, but their weapons were very real. Jung's ship fired a spread of kinetic torpedoes at the Imperial destroyer Starbreaker, each warhead containing a dozen tungsten darts programmed to separate at the last second. The destroyer's point defense systems, calibrated to intercept energy weapons and conventional missiles, couldn't track the small, fast-moving projectiles. Dozens of impacts peppered the ship's hull, each one punching through armor and vital systems. The Starbreaker listed to port, its engines failing as power systems overloaded. Lieutenant Song Yu-jin had deployed her electronic warfare systems the moment the battle began. Across the solar system, Earth's communications networks came alive with false signals, sensor ghosts and jamming frequencies that turned Imperial targeting systems into useless junk. Enemy gunners found themselves firing at phantom targets, while real threats slipped past their defenses undetected. "Their shields are rotating to deflect energy weapons," Colonel Yoon Da-yoon observed from her command post. "All kinetic platforms. Focus fire on shield generators. Make them choose between protection and mobility." The battle became a deadly game of cat and mouse, played across millions of cubic kilometers of space. Imperial ships would fire at an asteroid, only to discover it was solid rock. Meanwhile, the real weapons platforms remained hidden among the debris, picking off targets with methodical precision. Admiral Zefkor watched in growing horror as his fleet disintegrated around him. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being destroyed by primitive kinetic weapons and electronic trickery. The humans weren't fighting fair, weren't following the established rules of galactic warfare. "Sir, we've lost 17 ships," Commander Crixtal reported, his voice shaking. "Sensors can't distinguish between real threats and decoys. Our targeting computers are completely confused." A tungsten rod from asteroid platform Delta 7 chose that moment to demonstrate the futility of Imperial shields. The projectile struck the battleship Iron Throne at its most heavily armored point and punched straight through, the ship's own momentum carrying it onto the penetrator like a sword thrust. Secondary explosions rippled along the hull as the vessel's magazine detonated. "Full retreat," Zefkor ordered, his pride finally overcome by tactical necessity. "All ships, emergency jump to hyperspace." But the humans had one final surprise waiting. As the surviving Imperial vessels tried to flee, they discovered that their hyperspace navigation systems had been compromised by Earth's electronic warfare. Jump coordinates scattered across random vectors, sending ships careening into empty space or worse, directly into asteroid fields. Of the 48 Imperial warships that had entered Sol System with such confidence, only 11 managed to escape into hyperspace. The rest became expanding clouds of debris and atmosphere, their wreckage joining the asteroid belt as permanent monuments to human ingenuity. Captain Jung Hai-jin powered down his weapons systems and opened a channel to Colonel Yoon Da-un. "Wolves, returning to den. The hunt is over." "Copy that, Captain. Welcome to the solar system's newest asteroid field." The trap had sprung perfectly, and the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. Fleet Admiral Corthan stood on the command deck of his flagship, Galaxy's Wrath. A monstrous dreadnought that stretched 5 kilometers from nose to tail. Its hull was forged from crystallized dark matter, making it nearly indestructible by conventional weapons. Around him, the largest Imperial armada ever assembled filled space like a swarm of metallic locusts. 400 warships, each one capable of reducing a planet to molten slag, moved in perfect formation toward the insignificant yellow star humans called home. The fleet included everything the Empire could muster: massive siege dreadnoughts, with planet-cracking weapons, fast attack cruisers designed to hunt fleeing enemies, specialized carrier ships loaded with fighter drones, and support vessels carrying enough firepower to sterilize entire star systems. This wasn't just a military operation anymore. It was a statement to the galaxy that no one defied the Empire and lived. Admiral, his chief tactical officer, a spider-like arachnoid with 12 eyes, clicked nervously. Long-range sensors detect no major fleet concentrations. The humans appear to have abandoned their system. Corthan's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. His species, the Hive Mind Collective, had absorbed countless worlds through sheer, overwhelming force. Excellent. They've realized the futility of resistance. We'll make this quick and brutal, then broadcast the destruction across all Imperial channels. Let every world see what happens to those who defy us. 40 astronomical units away, Captain Im So-young crouched in her cramped observation bunker, built into a Kuiper Belt object that officially didn't exist. Her facility was one of dozens scattered throughout the outer solar system, each one disguised as space debris or natural formations. Banks of passive sensors tracked every Imperial ship, while quantum communicators linked her to Earth's defense network. "Mars Command, this is Icebox 7, she whispered into her headset, watching the massive enemy formation crawl across her screens. Count confirmed at 400 hostiles. They're maintaining standard Imperial battle formation, 3 waves, with heavy units in the center. Major Choi Jinwoo received the transmission in his underground command bunker beneath Olympus Mons. The facility had been excavated over 10 years, its tunnels stretching deep into Mars's core, where geothermal plants provided unlimited power. Holographic displays showed the entire solar system in real time, with every human asset marked in blue and enemy contacts glowing red. "Copy that, Icebox 7. They're following doctrine exactly like our war games predicted." Choi's fingers moved across his console, activating defense systems that had been dormant for years. "All stations, this is Mars Command. The Empire is coming home. Time to give them a proper welcome. The Imperial fleet crossed Neptune's orbit with growing confidence. Their sensors detected the usual signs of a primitive civilization. Communications, satellites, orbital debris, mining operations. Nothing that suggested serious military capability. What they couldn't see were the modifications humanity had made to every piece of infrastructure in the solar system. Uranus should have been just another gas giant with a collection of boring moons. Instead, its atmosphere had been seeded with millions of microscopic sensor nodes that created a detection web spanning the entire planetary system. Hidden facilities. On its moons tracked every Imperial ship, while massive fusion reactors built into the planet's core-powered weapon systems that defied Imperial understanding of physics. "Sir," the arachnoid tactical officer reported, "we're detecting some unusual energy patterns from the outer planets, possibly industrial facilities." Fleet Admiral Corthan waved dismissively with one of his four arms. "Irrelevant. Focus on Earth. That's where their leadership will make their final stand." But Earth wasn't making a stand. Earth had already won. The first sign that something was wrong came when Saturn's rings exploded into action. What the Empire had assumed were billions of ice particles and rocky debris revealed themselves as camouflaged weapon platforms. Ring fragments the size of buildings unfolded into massive railgun arrays, while Shepherd moons deployed fusion missiles that had been disguised as natural satellites. Commander Park Min-jun led Earth's outer system torpedo squadrons from his command ship Deep Strike, a sleek vessel built for speed and stealth. His fleet of 40 fast attack craft had been hiding in Saturn's rings for weeks, their crews living on recycled air and emergency rations. Now they struck like vipers, launching spreads of kinetic torpedoes that punched through Imperial shields. Like paper. "Target their command vessels first," Min-jun ordered, watching as his weapons found their marks. "Cut off their coordination, and they'll panic." The Imperial heavy cruiser, Void Sovereign, took 6 direct hits from Min-jun's squadron, each torpedo carrying a tungsten penetrator moving at 15% of light speed. The ship's crystalline armor, designed to deflect energy weapons, shattered like glass. Atmosphere vented from dozens of breaches as the cruiser listed out of formation, its command center a smoking ruin. Lieutenant Colonel Han Yuri commanded Luna's primary defense grid from a bunker buried 2 kilometers beneath the moon's surface. Her position controlled 17 massive railgun installations hidden across the lunar surface, each weapon capable of accelerating projectiles to 20% of light speed. The moon had been turned into humanity's ultimate fortress, its entire structure honeycombed with tunnels, weapon emplacements, and shield generators. "Firing solution on Imperial Dreadnought-class targets," Yuri announced, her targeting computer painting enemy ships with deadly precision. "All lunar batteries coordinated strike in 3, 2, 1, execute." 17 railguns fired simultaneously, their tungsten rounds crossing space in perfect synchronization. The Imperial Dreadnought Star Crusher had survived battles against entire civilizations, its armor forged in the hearts of dying stars. None of that mattered when 17 relativistic projectiles struck within milliseconds of each other. The ship simply ceased to exist, vaporized by kinetic energy that briefly outshone the sun. Fleet Admiral Corthan watched in growing horror as his mighty armada disintegrated around him. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being destroyed by primitive kinetic weapons fired from locations his sensors couldn't even detect. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a weapon, every planet and moon hiding surprises that defied Imperial military doctrine. "Sir, we've lost over 200 ships," his tactical officer reported, all 12 eyes wide with terror. "The humans have weapon emplacements everywhere. Jupiter's moons are launching missiles, Mars is firing particle beams, even the asteroid belt is shooting at us." The truth was worse than the arachnoid realized. Humanity had spent 15 years preparing for this moment, turning every piece of space debris into a potential weapon platform. Asteroids concealed fusion reactors and railguns. Comets carried sensor arrays and missile launchers. Even tiny pieces of orbital junk had been weaponized, turned into kinetic kill vehicles guided by artificial intelligence. Captain Im So-young watched the Imperial fleet's formation collapse from her hidden observation post. Mars Command, enemy cohesion is breaking down. They're trying to retreat, but our electronic warfare is scrambling their navigation systems. Major Choi Jin-woo smiled grimly as he coordinated the defense from his underground bunker. Earth's quantum. Computers had been analyzing Imperial communications and tactics for months, learning their patterns and exploiting their weaknesses. Keep hitting them. Don't let a single ship escape to report our full capabilities. The battle became a massacre as human weapon systems activated throughout the solar system. Pluto's research stations revealed themselves as massive particle beam cannons. Neptune's moons launched waves of fusion torpedoes. Even Mercury, closest to the Sun, deployed solar collectors that focused stellar energy into devastating beam weapons. Commander Park Min-jun's torpedo squadrons harried the fleeing Imperial forces like wolves hunting deer. This is deep strike to all units. The enemy is broken. Hunt them down, but leave a few survivors. The galaxy needs to know what happens when you threaten Earth. Fleet Admiral Corthan's flagship shuddered under multiple impacts as human weapons found their mark. His bridge crew lay dead or dying, their exotic biology no match for tungsten penetrators and fusion explosions. With his dying breath, he managed to activate the emergency beacon that would carry word of this impossible defeat back to Imperial space. Of the 400 ships that had entered Sol system with such arrogance, only 43 managed to limp away into hyperspace. The rest became expanding clouds of debris, their wreckage scattered across the solar system as monuments to human determination. The Empire had brought everything they had, and humanity had crushed it utterly. The galaxy would tremble when word of this victory spread, and the age of Imperial dominance would begin its final countdown. The news spread through the galaxy like wildfire through dry grass. Imperial communication networks, designed to carry orders from the center to the rim, instead carried whispers of the impossible. Earth, a single world at the edge of nowhere, had destroyed not one but 2 Imperial fleets. The survivors who limped back to Imperial space brought tales that seemed like fever dreams, asteroids that shot back, moons that bristled with weapons, and humans who fought like demons. On the industrial world of Kepler 442b, a Zephyrian named Kalatesh received the news while loading raw ore into an Imperial transport. Her people had been enslaved for 3 generations, their beautiful crystalline bodies forced to work in toxic mines that slowly poisoned their light-based metabolism. The Imperial overseers treated them like living tools, expendable and easily replaced. But now Kalatesh held something more precious than rare metals: hope. The humans said no, she whispered to her work crew in their musical language of chimes and harmonics. They told the Empire to leave, and when the Empire refused, the humans destroyed them. The whisper became a song, the song became a chorus, and the chorus became a revolution. Within hours, Zephyrian workers across the planet had risen up, their crystalline forms glowing with stored solar energy as they overwhelmed their Imperial guards. The mining facilities that had enslaved them for decades became fortresses of freedom. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on 1,000 worlds. On Proxima Centauri b, the methane-breathing ethereals had endured centuries of Imperial rule, their gas-giant cities converted into atmospheric processing plants for Imperial use. Now their elder councils convened in the swirling storms of their world's upper atmosphere, declaring independence, with voices that rumbled like thunder. The wolf-like Fenrans of Wolf 359 had been forced to hunt their own sacred prey animals to feed Imperial troops. Their pack leaders howled ancient songs of rebellion as they severed tribute agreements and reclaimed their frozen homeworld. Even the aquatic abyssal of Tau Ceti, who had never known war, began sabotaging the underwater mining operations that had polluted their ocean world for generations. General Lee Sung-min stood before the largest holographic display array ever constructed, built into Earth's primary orbital station. The massive ring-shaped structure rotated slowly above the planet, its gleaming hull reflecting sunlight like a second moon. This was humanity's new diplomatic center, hastily constructed to handle the flood of communication requests from across the galaxy. 47 different species appeared on the display screens, their forms as varied as imagination could conjure. Some were humanoid, Others looked like living crystals or gas clouds. A few existed as pure energy patterns that hurt human eyes to look at directly. But all of them shared the same expression: desperate hope, mixed with cautious fear. People of the galaxy, Sungmin began, his words translated simultaneously into dozens of languages by Earth's most advanced artificial intelligence systems. We stand at a crossroads. For too long, the Empire has ruled through fear and oppression. Today that changes. A delegate from the Spiral Nebula region, a being that looked like a walking tree made of living metal, spoke first. Humans of Earth, your victory gives us hope, but the Empire will not simply fade away. They have reserves, backup fleets, weapons we haven't seen yet. How can we trust that you won't abandon us when the real fighting begins? Sungbin nodded respectfully. We don't ask for your trust, we offer to earn it. Earth will not be your new empire. We offer partnership, not domination. Every world that joins the Terran Protection Compact maintains its sovereignty. We provide defensive technology and training, not occupation forces. The holographic display shifted to show technical specifications for Earth's defensive systems. Railgun schematics, stealth technology blueprints, electronic warfare protocols. Humanity was offering to share the very weapons that had defeated the Empire. These technologies are gifts, not loans, Sungmin continued. Adapt them to your worlds, your needs, your capabilities. Build your own defenses. We'll provide advisors and training, but the protection of your worlds must ultimately rest in your own hands. Captain Kim Dubin's transport ship, Unity's Dawn, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Vega system, its hull scarred from hastily installed defensive systems. Her crew of 50 included humans, 2 Zephyrian refugees, and a Fenran pack leader who had escaped Imperial custody. They carried the most precious cargo in the galaxy, knowledge. The Vegan colonies had been among the first to rebel after hearing of Earth's victory, but they were still using primitive chemical rockets and fusion weapons. Daebin's mission was to change that, to turn desperate rebels into a real fighting force. Vega Control, this is Captain Kim Darbin of the Terran Defense Corps, she broadcast as her ship approached the system's primary world. We bring gifts from Earth, blueprints, weapons, and the knowledge of how to use them. The response came in heavily accented standard Galactic, the excitement clear despite the electronic distortion. Captain Kim, welcome to Free Vega. We have been preparing for your arrival. Our people are ready to learn. Meanwhile, deep in Imperial space, Intelligence Officer Bei Su-jin worked her own kind of magic. Her ship, the stealth vessel Shadow Walker, had been conducting covert operations behind enemy lines for months. She moved between worlds like a ghost, making contact with resistance cells, providing communication equipment, and coordinating attacks on Imperial infrastructure. On the fortress world of Rigel Prime, she met with a cell of escaped abyssal warriors in the depths of a flooded Imperial prison complex. The aquatic beings had been forced to work in underwater weapons factories, but now they used their knowledge of Imperial security systems to sabotage production lines and steal intelligence, VT. Empire is pulling forces back from the Outer Rim, one of the abyssal reported, his translated words bubbling through the water. They're consolidating around the core worlds, abandoning colonies that can't defend themselves. Su-jin nodded, updating her tactical map with the new information. That's their weakness. They built an empire based on fear, but fear works both ways. Now they're afraid of losing what they have left. The intelligence network she was building spanned hundreds of worlds, connected by quantum communicators that Earth's scientists had miniaturized to the size of coins. Former Imperial subjects shared information about troop movements, supply lines, and vulnerable installations. The Empire's own communication networks had become highways for rebellion. Back on Earth, General Sungmin watched the reports streaming in from across the galaxy. Imperial authority was crumbling faster than anyone had dared hope. Worlds that had been subjugated for centuries were throwing off their chains, inspired by humanity's example. "Sir," his aide reported, "we're receiving formal requests to join the Protection Compact from 63 different systems. The Andromedan Council is offering to contribute their long-range sensor networks to our early warning system. Even..." The neutral zone species are asking about defensive pacts. Sungmin smiled, but it was a grim expression. The easy part is over. Now comes the real work, building something better than what we're tearing down. The holographic display updated to show the latest intelligence reports. The Empire still controlled nearly half the galaxy, including the core worlds where their most advanced facilities were located. They would not go quietly into the night. But for the first time in centuries, the oppressed peoples of the galaxy had hope. And hope, as humanity had just proven, could be the most powerful weapon of all. The age of imperial dominance was ending, and the age of galactic freedom was about to begin. Emperor Malxiron stood on the bridge of his super dreadnought, Final Dominion, a monstrous vessel built from the crystallized cores of dead stars. His form towered 3 meters tall, a nightmare fusion of cybernetics and ancient alien biology. 4 mechanical arms extended from his torso, while his original limbs had been replaced with weapons systems that could level city blocks. He was the last of his species, having consumed the others to extend his own life for over 1,000 years. Behind him stretched the remnants of the once mighty Imperial Navy. 218 ships, all that remained of an armada that had once numbered in the tens of thousands. These were the survivors, the veterans, the most fanatical followers who had rallied to their emperor's final call. Each vessel bristled with experimental weapons pulled from secret research facilities, prototype technologies that had never been tested in battle. "My Lord Emperor," his cybernetic aide announced, its mechanical voice echoing through the cathedral-sized bridge. "Hyperspace transition complete. We have arrived at the Sol system." Malxiron's artificial eyes blazed with hatred as he stared at the blue marble hanging in space ahead of them. Earth looked so small, so fragile. One planet that had brought down an empire spanning half the galaxy. Today that would end. Today he would personally watch humanity burn. "All ships, attack formation," he commanded, his voice amplified through the fleet's communication systems. "We will glass their world, boil their oceans, and scatter their ashes across the cosmos. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who defy the Empire." But as the Imperial fleet moved toward Earth, they discovered they were not alone in the void. Admiral O.J. Hyun stood on the bridge of his flagship, New Seoul, watching as hundreds of Allied vessels decloaked around Earth. His combined fleet was a marvel of galactic cooperation. Sleek Andromedan cruisers with hulls that shifted color like living metal, massive Zephyrian crystal ships that sang harmonic battle songs, Fenran Wolfpack squadrons moving in perfect coordination, and dozens of repurposed Imperial vessels now crewed by the species they had once enslaved. "All Allied forces, this is Admiral O," he broadcast on all frequencies. "Today we make our final stand. Not just for Earth, but for every world that dreams of freedom. Show them what a united galaxy can accomplish." Captain Seo Minjai worked frantically at her tactical station aboard the command vessel, Harmony, her fingers dancing across controls that linked together technologies from 47 different species. Andromedan stealth systems networked with Zephyrian energy shields. Fenran pack-hunting algorithms coordinated with human electronic warfare. The diverse technologies shouldn't have worked together, but human adaptability had found a way to make them sing in perfect harmony. "Tactical link established with all Allied vessels," she reported. "We have full coordination across the combined fleet. Enemy formation is advancing in standard Imperial battle lines." The space around Earth erupted into the largest naval battle in galactic history. Emperor Malxiron led his forces forward like an ancient warlord, his super dreadnought's weapons carving through space with beams of pure annihilation. The Final Dominion's main cannon could crack continents, its secondary batteries capable of vaporizing entire cities. But he faced an enemy unlike any the Empire had ever encountered. The Andromedan cruiser, Stellar Grace, danced through Imperial. Fire like a silver ghost, its hull phasing in and out of normal space-time. Its captain, a being of pure energy named Luxandra, coordinated with human tactical systems to strike at weak points in Imperial formations. Her weapons didn't just destroy enemy ships, they unraveled them at the molecular level, turning mighty dreadnoughts into clouds of constituent atoms. Meanwhile, the Zephyrian crystal ship, Harmony's Voice, sang its battle song across multiple dimensions. The vessel was alive in ways that defied human understanding, its crystalline structure resonating with frequencies that could shatter Imperial hulls or heal Allied damage. Captain Kalatesh, the former slave who had sparked rebellion on Kepler 442b, now commanded one of the most powerful ships in the galaxy. "For every world enslaved," she sang, her crystalline form blazing with stored solar energy. "For every species freed, let our song of liberty echo across the stars." The Fenran Wolfpack struck like their namesakes, coordinated and relentless. Pack leader Grimfang commanded 12 fast attack vessels, each one crewed by warriors who had been hunting Imperial troops across their frozen homeworld for months. They moved as one mind, striking at Imperial flanks and disappearing before return fire could find them. Even the aquatic Abyssal had joined the fight, their bioships looking like massive jellyfish that pulsed through space on waves of directed gravity. Their vessels could phase through solid matter, appearing inside Imperial hulls to release warrior dolphins, armed with sonic weapons that liquefied enemy crew members from the inside out. Captain Xiaominjie watched the battle unfold on her tactical displays, coordinating the chaos of 47 different combat doctrines into a unified assault. "Admiral, enemy flagship is concentrating fire on our center formation. The Emperor is trying to break through to Earth directly." Admiral O.J. Hyun nodded grimly. "All ships, focus fire on the final Dominion. It's time to end this empire once and for all." The combined fleet converged on Emperor Malxaran's super dreadnought, like antibodies attacking a virus. Andromedan phase cannons struck from impossible angles. Zephyrian crystal resonance weapons vibrated the ship's hull at frequencies that bypassed its shields entirely. Human kinetic penetrators punched through armor that had withstood planetary bombardments. Malxaran raged as his flagship shuddered under the coordinated assault. "Impossible! I am eternal! I am the Empire incarnate! You cannot destroy what I have built!" But his cybernetic systems were failing, his artificial life support breaking down as the ship died around him. With his last conscious thought, he activated the final Dominion's self-destruct, hoping to take his enemies with him in a final act of spite. The super dreadnought's reactor core went critical, releasing energy equivalent to a small star. The explosion lit up half the solar system, visible from Mars to Jupiter. When the light faded, nothing remained of the mighty vessel except expanding plasma and the scattered dreams of a dead empire. "Enemy flagship destroyed," Captain Xiaominjie reported, her voice filled with quiet satisfaction. "The Emperor is dead. Imperial forces are surrendering across the battle zone. The surviving Imperial ships, leaderless and demoralized, began transmitting surrender codes. Without their God Emperor to drive them forward, the will to fight simply evaporated. The battle for Earth was over, and with it, the last organized resistance of the Galactic Empire." 6 months later, Colonel Nam-Ji-hoon sat in the same Luna Station conference room where this all began, but now the chamber was filled with representatives from across the galaxy. The Treaty of Luna Station lay before him, a document that would reshape galactic civilization. With careful ceremony, he signed humanity's name to the agreement that formally dissolved the Galactic Empire and established the Confederation of Free Worlds. "Today marks the end of tyranny and the beginning of true galactic civilization," he announced to the assembled delegates. "Earth's borders remain sealed to those who would bring oppression, but our ports are open to all who come in peace." The holographic displays showed ships from hundreds of worlds arriving at Earth's orbital stations. Free traders carrying goods that had been monopolized by the Empire for centuries, diplomats establishing embassies and cultural exchanges, scientists sharing knowledge that the Empire had hoarded in secret vaults. Admiral O.J. Hyun watched from the observation deck as an Andromedan art vessel docked with Luna Station, its hull decorated with shifting patterns that told the story of their species' liberation. Nearby, a Zephyrian crystal ship sang greeting songs to a Fenran pack hunter, two species that had never been allowed to meet under Imperial rule. "We did it," he said quietly to Captain Xiaominjie, who stood beside him. "We actually did it." "Humanity said no to an empire and made it stick," she replied. watching as Earth's blue marble turned below them, now orbited by ships from across the galaxy. Sometimes the greatest victories don't come from conquest. They come from having the courage to draw a line in space and defend it. The age of the Galactic Empire was over. The age of galactic freedom had begun. And it all started because one small blue world at the edge of nowhere had looked at the mightiest force in the galaxy and simply said no. The end.